Mary Dews is 83, needs a walking frame to get around and suffers memory loss. But that didn't stop a car dealer selling the great-grandmother a 1.7-tonne ute she can't even drive.
It's a monster. An absolute monster. Oh.
Christian.
How are you?
Chris Allen from A Current Affair, mate. Can we ask you some questions?
You can. What's up?
Could you believe that a car salesman had sold your mum
No.
that car?
No, it's a great big four-wheel drive. My mum can't even get in the car, let alone drive it. So that was just ridiculous.
Well, we'd like to know what sort of man sells a four-wheel drive ute to an 83-year-old grandmother on a walking frame.
My mother.
Tracy's mum.
Hi, how you going?
Does it make you angry now when you look at it?
I could wring his neck.
I can understand that.
You sold a car to an 83-year-old woman.
Give me a sec. I've just got a couple of things to do. Won't be long.
Have you got a conscience?
Yeah,
I do have a conscience. Give
Well,
me a sec.
obviously not.
Well, do you have a mother or a grandmother? Would you sell a four-wheel drive ute to an 83-year-old?
She can't even get in the vehicle.
For 83-year-old Mary Dews, it is simply too much.
And my mum won't even look at the car because it's too distressing. She ended up in hospital the other day, and it's it's caused a lot of stress for her. That was their life savings, and they've got nothing left. So
Mary's daughter, Tracy. How would you describe that?
it's disgusting. I mean, it's not only the fact that they've preyed on an elderly person, but my mum could have got in that car, driven it and killed someone or killed herself. And do you think the car yard would feel guilty? I don't think so. It's terrible. It really is terrible.
But salesman Christian Van Leishout, who sold Mary this $26,000 Great Wall ute 3 weeks ago, refuses to answer our questions before disappearing inside.
Does he have a conscience? I don't think he does. I don't think he's got a conscience at all. All he was thinking of was the commission, I presume. I'm disgusted, absolutely disgusted.
So, Mary, did you want to buy a car?
Well, we thought about it and talked about it, and then maybe. It was just an impulse, and it went wrong.
Mary hasn't driven for 3 years. Husband Philip has a brain injury which causes him to constantly fall asleep and can't drive. But when Philip responded to an online car ad, salesman Christian was quickly on the phone.
We got the call. Next thing we knew, he was at the door, and we were out in the four-wheel drive.
What makes this even more shameful is that Christian, the salesman, actually came to the retirement home where Philip and Mary lived to pick them up, so he could see right up front how frail Mary was and that she needed a walking frame to get about. In fact, Mary says he had to help her to get into the car. So how on earth did he think she was going to drive it?
He never asked if I wanted to drive.
And did he suggest to you that maybe a smaller car might have been more suitable or something?
Not at any time.
Mary says they were driven straight to the car yard where a contract was put in front of them.
I don't think it was 15 minutes before he pulled out the contract.
Less than that. Did you feel bullied at all?
Pushed into something that we didn't quite understand.
So you're Paul Nelson?
Yep, that's me.
Yes.
Well, can you explain to us how this happened? With salesman Christian nowhere to be seen, it's left to the sales manager, Paul Nelson, to answer our questions. Your car salesman sold this car
I'm
to
happy
you.
to talk to you about it, but I won't be doing it in front of the camera.
Well, she would like to know if
Thank
you're going
you.
to give her money back. She'd like the money back for the car.
Yes, I've got a little bit of dementia. It's not too bad, but it's getting worse.
Because you couldn't remember where the contract was after you'd been given it.
Yes.
Well, I rang up on the same day and spoke to the salesman, and I explained to him that my mum has, she hasn't been diagnosed with dementia as yet, but she has memory loss and she's got the signs for dementia. And I said that she couldn't even remember signing the contract, and what she thought was what she signed was for the deposit of $1,000.
In what world do you think it was acceptable to sell
I'm happy to talk to you and resolve this very quickly, but I won't be doing it in front of the camera. Okay?
What kind of salesman thinks it's acceptable to sell
I'm happy to do it.
a ute to a great-grandmother on a walking frame? Who does that?
There are an awful lot of red flags there that the salesperson should have been concerned about when engaging with Mary.
Lawyer Christine Smythe is an expert in issues affecting older Aussies.
The salesperson certainly needs some reviewing of practices and procedures if he wants to proceed in that line of work.
There's no cooling off period with a new car, so it seems when Mary signed this contract, there was no way out. But Tracy noticed that there was provision in the contract for the dealer to tear it up and keep 10% of the purchase price. So she says she rang the salesman and begged him to do that, but was told no way. Are you angry that this has happened?
Yes, I am angry. I'm angry with ourselves, and I'm angry with that man that did not take anything into consideration. All he wanted was our signature on that contract.
That's what you felt?
Yes.
Is it reasonable behaviour? No. Is it effective at law? Well, that's where the question mark is, isn't it? It's the retailer, or in this situation, the salesman, who's taking the risk when it comes to this kind of pressurised behaviour when you're dealing with elderly and clearly infirm people.
Have you got a conscience?
I do have a conscience. Give me a sec.
Obviously not.
As we've seen, the salesman ducks for cover, leaving his boss, Paul Nelson, who doesn't want to talk on camera, to deal with Tracy and our questions. We agree to discuss it inside without the camera.
You didn't even ask her if she wanted to get into the car and drive
I can't
it.
answer all the questions for you, but what
But
I can
those are the
say is
questions that I need to know.
This is the first time Mary has looked at her purchase since it was delivered and left in the retirement home car park.
I mean, I've not slept since this happened. I'm like a nervous wreck.
And then finally a breakthrough back at the car yard.
What I can tell you is that we're happy to do a refund for you.
It's a good ending, but it wouldn't have happened. It should never have happened.
Do you believe he took advantage of you?
Very much so.
I just don't want this to happen to anybody else. It's sad to think that elderly people can be ripped off by salesmen.
Well, Chris Allen joins me now. Chris, did the dealership make good on that promise?
Yes, they did, Tracy. In fact, the day after we turned up at the car yard, Paul Nelson, the sales manager, turned up at the retirement home with a cheque for $26,000, the full amount Mary had paid for the car. Mary says he gave her the cheque, apologised and took the car back. He also told us until we appeared he was unaware of this situation and has promised to carry out an investigation. One side effect for Mary is that because she'd bought a car, she was no longer eligible to take the free bus from the retirement home to the local shops. So for 3 weeks she hasn't been able to buy her groceries. Now that the car has gone, Mary is back on the bus and life has returned to normal. Trace?
Good work sorting that out. Thanks very much, Chris.